Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our virtual discussion, How to Engage Prospective Students and Drive Enrollment at Scale. My name is Sarah. I'm the VP of Marketing here at BrainSell. We're the Growth Enablement Company, and I will be your host for today's event. But let's start first by reviewing today's agenda. So we're going to start, I'm going to just cover some quick housekeeping things, and then we'll go through introductions of with the other participants that are on the line with me. Then we'll move into our panelist discussion, followed by a demonstration of how Conversica's admissions AI assistant helps drive prospective student engagement. And then we'll conclude with an audience Q&A, and we'll wrap things up. So on to housekeeping. A few things. So this is going to be, we'll be together for the next hour, but we want this to be an interactive discussion. So at any time that you have questions, while we do have a formal Q&A with the audience at the end, at any time during this discussion that you have questions, drop them right into that question box. I will monitor that. So as your questions come in and they're relevant to the conversation, I'll just interject and ask them to our panelists. And then finally, this event is being recorded today, so you will receive a copy of the recording. It will likely be tomorrow morning, and you will see it in your email inbox. So with that, let's get to know the other two individuals I have with me today. So Jocelyn, I'm going to kick it over to you to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Beautiful. My name is Jocelyn Fleming. I am a partner growth executive here at Conversica. I work alongside 6 or 7 of our reseller partners, as well as some of our referral partners. And at least 3 of those have interest and involvement in the higher ed space. It's been something, it and philanthropy are probably my 2 favorite focal points for utilizing the assistant. I think it's a great take, but I've worked for Conversica for about a year and a half now, and this assistant is absolutely one of my favorite things to showcase, so I can't wait to show you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here with us today, Jocelyn.
Absolutely.
And next, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Megan to introduce herself.
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Megan Brooks. I'm an account executive over here at BrainSell. I focus a lot of my time on the customer experience side of the house, whether that be CRM, marketing, automation, customer support, or other AI enablement tools like Conversica. So a lot of times I'm working with organizations who are looking for support in those areas and identifying the best fit for them, and also implementing those tools to help them grow and scale.
Wonderful. Thank you, Megan. So with that, we are going to move into our panelist discussion. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen, and then we will move into the questions. And Jocelyn, we're actually not seeing you on camera, just FYI.
Interesting. Yeah, my control panel is currently frozen, so I apologize if you can't see me.
That's okay. So just moving into the question. So first question, I know today that we're focused on talking about how colleges and universities and higher education institutions can leverage AI. But before we get started, let's hear where each of you went to school, to college, and what was your mascot?
Sure.
Megan,
Jocelyn, you want to? Oh, me? You want me to start? I can start. Yeah.
Up to you. Go ahead, Megan.
Go ahead. Me? Okay, sorry. I went to Plymouth State University up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and our mascot was the Plymouth State Panther. So a black panther was, I think his name was Pemmy, because the Pemigewasset River goes right through campus. So Pemmy the Panther at Plymouth State.
Cute.
Yeah.
How about you, Jocelyn?
That is nice. I went to the University of North Florida. I'm a Florida girl through and through. That's in Jacksonville. And ours, a little less adorable. We were an osprey, which if you're not familiar is like a bird of prey. And so you'll hear anybody who's been to UNF, they yell swoop. That's like our thing.
Cool.
I went to Providence College in Rhode Island, and when I was in school, our mascot, it was a Dalmatian, because one of the friars that had been there for a long time had a Dalmatian that followed him around campus. And so it was the cutest mascot ever. And then at some point, they decided to move away from the Dalmatian, and now it's our mascot, the friar, and it is the most terrifying costume ever. If you Google it, it's really horrifying.
I'm
So
gonna have to do that.
I advocate that they go back to the Dalmatian. All right, Jocelyn, so let's jump into the discussion. We do a lot of work with colleges and universities. It's an industry that I personally love to work with, and I know, Megan, you do too. But Jocelyn, what are you seeing as some of the biggest obstacles in 2022 for higher education?
Yeah, there's actually a lot to unpack there. I mean, I wouldn't say any, vertical has been untouched over the past few years, but I think higher ed has a really unique set of challenges that have been exacerbated by, we'll call it the excitement, to keep it positive, of the last few years. So I know within universities, we've got some concerns around, evaluation of students, whether or not they've been properly evaluated due to COVID disruptions. Grades were affecting, testing, had to be all over the place because of the limitations, right? And so there's a question of whether or not it was an accurate representation. And that's a huge thing that I know colleges are navigating right now. Alongside that, and some kind of related to it too, we've got this a lot of times younger crowds that are coming into the universities that overall mental health is a huge consideration, right? And that's something that universities are deciding sort of what role they want to play, resources, and how they want to show up for their attendees. And with those, I can honestly say that's not something a Conversica assistant can really help you out with, right? Because those are really level focused strategies. You have to be really great with things like relationship building, support, the human connection. And our assistants don't do that, right? They're very strategic. It's very much a persistent follow-up type cadence, which another kind of facet of things that I know that universities are looking at and strategizing is there was kind of a pedal to the floor movement, so to speak, when it comes to their virtual offerings at universities, right? Online education, that's nothing new. Those programs have been around and they've been ever growing in popularity, but it legit skyrocketed. This trend that had started growing pre-COVID is now, the height of expectations when it comes to universities. And as a result, we've got a kind of increased interest in those programs, and a lot more names maybe coming into the mix as being an interested party versus attending the actual school. And then the final piece that's current, I would say, is whenever you're dealing with the economic changes, there's usually a rapid renewal in interest around things like continuing education. As people find themselves, sort of unhappy with where they're at, that's the quickest thing people move to when they consider what's next, right? Pursuing additional education, certifications, programs. So that's another piece. And those, as we'll talk more about, are areas that your virtual assistant could greatly benefit you.
Yeah, great. So you've referenced your assistants and virtual assistants. And I know at Conversica, we talk a lot about the ability to augment teams with intelligent virtual assistants, but when you're talking about assistants, what exactly is an intelligent virtual assistant? Is it like a chatbot? Tell us a little bit more about that.
No, that's a great question, because I know the market is flooded with things that say they're intelligent or it's artificial intelligence, and there can be a ton of different ways of positioning that. So our AI assistant, what she's doing at a very high level is she's creating two-way communication between you and your prospective leads. So when we think chatbot a lot of times is in place on a website. The person has to go to the chatbot, they have to engage with it, and then as soon as the person leaves, the engagement is done. The assistant's going to be a little bit different than that, right? She's going to engage in a few different modalities. Right now, a heavy focus in email, texting. We're also exploring implementing things like WhatsApp, other applications for outreach. But what you would do is just like hiring an assistant for your team. You're going to choose your assistant's name. You're going to give her a title. And then you're going to give her a plan, right? Just like a standard assistant, you would say, hey, here's the list of people we want you to call or reach out to. Here's the purpose of why we're having you reach out. And here's the information or details about what you need to deliver. And the assistant is then going to work independently to do that outreach. Like I said, independent of a human until we have a hand raiser. So then let's say you've asked her to reach out to 1,000 people regarding recent admission, right? Recent admission research. She is going to continue that follow-up cadence until she gets a response from them. So your people are freed up to speak to people. I mean, imagine if your, admissions representatives, if they were only making calls to people who had requested it, like, hey, how do you know they're interested? Well, they confirmed it. That's what our assistant can do for you. We can take that guesswork out of it. I was adopted by an Italian man, so I call it throwing spaghetti at the wall, because that's what we do. You throw it and wait till something sticks. And your assistant can do that part for you, where you can save your people and resources, especially if they're limited, to speak to people who are actively interested in moving forward down the line. Does that make sense?
It does. So when we think about, personalization and just thinking about what students or prospective students are expecting, right, just based on consumer behaviors and consumer experience, and it's really that level of personalization. They want to feel important, and then how you can scale that like how can you personalize but also scale that level of personalization that prospective students are experiencing. So how does a technology like Conversica do that?
Oh, absolutely. So what's funny, we've done some studies and it turns out people aren't great at personalization at scale. We have a ton of time where we'll get into a habit and we'll create templates and copy and paste, right? The things we might change might be like, hey, so I have 2 daughters, okay? We'll use that as an example. And maybe a college is looking to reach out to both of them. A lot of times when we engage humans to do that work, we try to make it simple for ourselves. We copy paste. Something that the assistant does that's very unique is she's always going to personalize the message with 5 different elements. So my 2 daughters could be on the exact same lead list and get messages with the same intent, but the assistant's going to make sure that they don't receive the exact same messaging. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here with conversations. It's a very simple, you'll see later, it's a very simple messaging. It's not anything long or complicated. We try to keep it something that can be read in just a moment, because our most common thing that happens with email, when you open an email and there's 8 different action items and 12 different links, you're like, I'll look at it later. And
right.
Literally none of us go back and look at it later. So the first thing we do is we keep it within their attention span. If it takes longer than a TikTok video to watch, they're probably not going to pay attention, right? So then we've got that personalization where if a husband or wife is on the same lead list, or 2 children, they're going to get messages that are very simple, very casual, to the point, but also they're going to be unique, so that they do feel like that they're getting a specific outreach to them. It does feel personal and connected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Thank you. So turning it over to you, Megan, internally, we as a team have been talking a lot about just downturn economies and how we can help our customers recession-proof their business, and looking at different industries and how they would be impacted. And higher education is an area that historically has not been negatively impacted by a downturn. In fact, last week I was reading a Forbes article where the data has shown that enrollment to universities and colleges actually increases in a period of time like that. So how would a tool like Conversica be beneficial in this time period, or over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, definitely. I know everyone's thinking about it. We're kind of getting to that point now. And Conversica is a great tool because it allows businesses across industries, in this case, we're talking about higher education, to increase those outbound activities without the need for an additional person. So when we're talking about recession, we're thinking about, what's the best way that we can save money? And we know capital is expensive. Payroll is one of the largest expenditures on the balance sheet. So adopting a tool that can support that growth without kind of burning that hole in your pocket is pretty much a no-brainer. Everyone's looking for technology to work for them. But beyond that, the AI assistant in higher education has the ability to anticipate enrollment trends, give you data around optimization of recruitment efforts, and save time so your staff can start focusing on improving student experiences, like what Jocelyn was talking about before, mental health. How are we going to play a role in that? And kind of focusing more on those personalized human interactions that are so important at the schools that the students are looking for. What can we do? How can we leverage an AI assistant to take that off of their plates and focus more on the more kind of the more personalized approaches that you want to have with your students.
Yeah, great. Jocelyn, we're talking a lot about, we're focused on the use case for admissions today within higher education, but how else are colleges and universities using an AI assistant within their organizations?
For sure. So anytime that this product is super versatile, and that when we're talking about admission, right? Like I said, I have a almost 17-year-old daughter, and they start sending out messages for attendance. Like, she started getting blown up by colleges in 10th grade. She's got a good GPA. I can't blame them. But there's this long relationship building period before they become a student. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. There is this entire life cycle that follows that we can also support you through with things like, once they're a student, we need to show them what's out there for them to do, what's next. Maybe setting up conversations with their advisors if needed, or even events like, hey, let's let everybody know this event is happening and gather interest for it. Your assistant can do that pre-event, post-event outreach. Hey, let us know how this event was. Did it help you? Do we need to, do more things like this so that you can really stay on the pulse of what your students are looking for? It can even go into things like collections. Let's say somebody does fall into a situation where they're having difficulty paying, and you need to reach out and see if you can get a pulse. Maybe they're not responding via traditional methods. You can utilize our assistant for that polite, persistent follow-up. Those are all within the student interaction. That's just a touch on what we do. But there's a whole other piece as well within higher ed that some of my partners work very closely with, and it's with their charitable giving. So it's their donors. We've got things like major gifts. We've got planned giving, and things change, and we need to check in with those people, and we need to get a pulse on where they're at as well. So you can have conversations of, hey, I know that this was something you were planning. Are you still planning to do that? They answer the assistant yes. She lets you guys know, hey, it's satisfied. We're good. Oh, perfect. Or, hey, we haven't talked with you this year. Would you like to set up an appointment with, one of our hire people to have discussions, check in, build relationships? The assistant can do that as well. Hey, here's what we're doing with the money that you've given us. Let's send out this information. Would you like to see more? And the assistant can send them a link of what's going on, or a newsletter of what's going on with their, the things that they're doing on behalf of that university, to kind of help continue that engagement. Again, it's this major touch point where anything at scale, we can assist you in connecting with people in a more efficient way.
Yeah, great. And great additional use cases out beyond just admissions. So on the other side of that, we're focused on higher education, but what about other institutions? Is it really just higher ed, or is it any sort of institution that has an enrollment process?
Oh yeah, no, this product's incredibly agnostic. Like, to give you even more understanding, like, obviously we could be a solid fit for any educational institution that needs to get in contact with people, because we have footing in so many different verticals, right? Our probably our biggest footings in automotive. So we're using a similar product like this to reach out to people about their cars and about trading in and about service appointments, right? So we've got the ability to customize this for whatever your need is. The biggest part, if you want to know what's necessity for this to be an effective tool, is that it be at scale, right? And that we have the need for more follow-up than maybe your staff can handle, or that maybe they're not handling well, right? We've got, we'll say, 50,000 leads, that maybe 4,000 or 1,000 of them are really something that your people are going to act on and work on, but they can't because they're too tied up trying to, like I said, throw spaghetti at the wall to 50,000, right? We're going to free up your people to talk to those people that are ready to move forward.
Great. Is there a specific success story that comes to mind when we talk about Converska and higher education, and how Converska has helped?
Oh, we've got some solid higher ed admissions customers. Honestly, though, my favorite, if it's okay with you, I like to show you. I brought it for the demo today, so when we move into that, I can kind of run you through, and you'll be able to see as well the opportunities that have been created from it. The dashboard will kind of speak for itself if that works.
Yeah, great. That's actually great timing. I have one more question, and then we can move right into the demo. And I'll pose it to both of you, and Megan, if you want to start, but what is one trend that you believe that colleges and universities should be monitoring when it comes to student enrollment and engagement for the remainder of this year and beyond?
Yeah, and I think honestly, I've been thinking about this and doing a little bit of research, but it kind of touches back to a point that Jocelyn had made regarding the excitement over the last couple of years and how people are finding creative ways to run after their passions and continue to get educated in areas where they may want to switch careers. So I recently read an article around Cleveland Community College, and they saw a massive uptick in enrollment over the last couple of years by offering classes to high school students. I know in my high school, we had some sort of a dual enrollment type program, and also those adults who I was referencing earlier who are looking to switch careers. So I thought it was interesting because when we think of the traditional higher ed route, we tend to think 4 years of college, 4 years of university, but they've been able to kind of target these different audiences through recruiting efforts and different events and leveraging a customer service program they didn't specify to follow up with people who have inquired about certain programs. And this could be a huge play for and time saver for AI tools like Conversica. I know internally at BrainSell, we've leveraged it for post-event follow-ups as well.
Yep.
So that type of automation is super helpful to have in your back pocket. So I think it's an interesting way to think about the different avenues outside of those traditional routes and look to individuals who may be looking to switch out their careers now that life is becoming a little bit more normal. We may be heading into a recession here. They may want to start educating themselves to be a little bit more agile in the marketplace. So those are some of the trends I was able to find online this week.
Great. Thank you, Megan. What are your thoughts, Jocelyn?
Yeah, so with the trends, I think a lot of what Megan said rings very true. And what's really interesting and a piece of it that I really want to focus on is the fact that a ton of people are going to go looking, but I want you to consider how many times that people go and me, for example, we're going to keep it positive here, but I look at all kinds of workout equipment and workout plans, and I have the best laid plans for myself and my diet. And if you come to me and go, well, what are you actually going to activate on, right? I'm one of those people that might not move forward. So as we get this influx of more interest, right, that's the real trend there that I think is something that colleges have to be on top of, is making sure that no lead goes untouched and syncing with that. But also it's like reaching out to people in the modalities with which they are actually present. So email and text is going to be the really kind of hyper focus on trends. People are electronic, people are attached to their devices, right? Reaching out to them and being there for them in the way that they want you to be is now the absolute expectation when it comes to honestly any business that's looking to cater to a group of people, right? You have to meet them where they're at. So I think that's something that's very important to stay focused on.
Yeah, great points. Okay, so let's get into the show and tell portion of this. So Jocelyn, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter so you can share your screen and we can take a look at the tool.
Trying to see if it will let me, and we might have a brief moment here because fun story, one of my screens has frozen, one of my screens is working fine. So if anything, I can jump back out and jump back in really quick. Because it's not letting me share. Give me just one moment, guys.
Sure. And this is a good point to just remind anyone who has joined us today, please, as you have questions, just drop them right into that question box. And I will be monitoring that and make sure that your questions are getting answered as we go through the presentation.
You want to know the positive? Is I used to work for Geek Squad, so I just got this worked out. All right.
Oh, fun fact.
Do you guys have my second screen up there?
We can see your screen, yeah.
Oh, that's odd. I can't hear you anymore. Hold on. How about now?
Yep, we can see your screen.
Perfect. Now I can hear you again. That was so funny. I knew that it had frozen because my time was still 12 o'clock on my main screen. And I was like, that's not good. So beautiful. So glad we got this worked out. Whew. tech, fun, real world. Oh, look, I can actually come on camera now too if it'll let me. You know what? I'm not going to test the water on that. I'm not going to risk it. So if you can see here though, this is our dashboard. So if you were to employ a Conversica assistant, you would have access to a dashboard similar as this. In certain CRMs, Salesforce, for example, is one of them. It's actually embedded into as an app into the product, but with other ones, you would just have a separate dashboard, but you could jump in and get all of this information here. This is kind of your peek into what your assistant is up to, right? What her productivity is looking like. But some of this is not going to make any sense until we jump into where she shines brightest, which is in her interactions with your leads. Also, as you can see here, we've got it anonymized to an extent. We keep private their sources, we take away last names, and the rep last names as well, and all the phone numbers, you'll see them shake up and be anonymized as well. But man, you're gonna have a really hard time guessing which one of our customers we're working with today. So let's jump right into an engagement here. And this is a great example of how the admissions assistant can reach out to confirm interest. You can see it starts out very simply. Good morning. I see that in the past you've shown interest in starting your educational journey with our customer here. I wanted to see if we can answer any questions that you may have. You know, online and continuing education offers more than 100 online degrees and certificates across a range of high demand fields. Would you like help scheduling some time to speak with your enrollment coach? Thank you very much and have a good morning. And her name is Taylor, right? She's got her own title. It tells you where she's from. You can add addresses and things like that to the bottom just for a very, you know, seamless interaction. And as you can see here, like I mentioned earlier, she's not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's one purpose for this conversation. Hey, we saw you did this. Are you interested in doing something additional? So for here, it's would you like help scheduling time to speak with an enrollment coach, okay? So then she's going to continue persistent follow-up. This was on the 21st, 8 a.m. 25th, she's going to do another touch. Hey, I want to follow up on my previous email. Again, you can see it's customized each time. About your interest in starting your educational journey, we'd be happy to give you any additional information you may be looking for. Would you like to set up a call? So in this particular instance, we're setting up a drive to a call. And you don't have to do that. If you want to provide them with a link, frequently asked questions, something to register, we can do that as well. It doesn't have to be the end game of a call. It can be informational, but this is just, you know, one example of how she works. So then we've got another follow-up on the 28th. You previously expressed interest in starting your educational journey. Can I help you by setting up a call, right? Just slightly different versions. Then here's kind of, I don't want to call it like the breakup letter, but our assistant does a really good job on the final attempts, kind of letting them know like, hey, I've been attempting to reach out, but I haven't been successful. I want to make sure you have no unanswered questions regarding starting your educational journey. You know, do you have an interest in a call to set up more? And what's really funny is we get a ton of interest when they do kind of, I jokingly call it the breakup message. When the assistant's like, hey, I've been trying, but I know you haven't. It like ignites something in people to be like, oh yeah. Because, you know, they didn't even, if you're looking here too, she didn't even open these ones. She didn't even open them. So we didn't get we didn't get the interest in the first line, right? This one, I've been attempting to reach out to you. That grabbed, in this particular instance, that grabbed the interest of this person. And they went, oh, I better look at this because somebody's been trying to get with me. And she sends back, hey, I had a question. Can I get in LSU hotel and restaurant management, bachelor's degree, or hospitality management? And then she asks another question, kinda. So you have in-person or online programs, right? So you can see here, there's a lot going on. What the assistant's able to independently do is go, hey, they're interested, which is, this is an example of the intelligence, right? This is not a clear indication that she's interested. This is using natural language generation. So the assistant, without help, is going to flag this as a hot lead, okay? She's going to send a notification to the sales rep. Hey, heads up, you've got somebody interested in talking more. Then she's going to proceed to answer. So we got this at 2:26. She's flipped it to a hot lead. And then she's sent message qualify the next phase of the conversation at 2:27. Oh, perfect. An enrollment coach would like to give you a call. What's the best number to reach you on? Okay, so here we clearly had an email for this lead, but no contact number. So in the meantime, she's flagged your human who's probably not immediately available, and that makes sense. So she's going to put the ball back into the lead's court to A, give them that immediate engagement that they're looking for, right? On the internet now, we expect it right away. She's going to do that, but she's also going to try to collect better information for your human representative to engage this lead. So she's just trying to collect a good number. And the lead says, hey, you can, well, I can call me here, but you can call me here. Here's a number. Again, all this is anonymized, but gives you the idea. So then what's going to happen, that was on August 3rd. We've got this set up again as a hot lead. She's going to notify the human representative. That's their preferred number to be contacted at, so they can make that best connection the first time. But then she's going to do one final piece, and this is another area that our assistant tends to shine, is she's going to follow up to make sure your human representative did what they were supposed to do. So you see scheduled next message, August 8th. She's going to circle back and say, hey, did you get everything you were looking for? Did you make sure that you were going to, we're going to make sure you got all those questions answered. We're going to make sure, because truth be told, at this point, we see they're interested, but then what, right? We're not sure. So the human representative takes over, and the assistant's going to come on back through to go ahead and close that loop to make sure that they were satisfied. And we'll be able to show you an example shortly of what it looks like, maybe when they're not. But another feature I want to highlight, again, this is your scheduled next message. We're doing real time here, so these are still in progress. We've got this option to reply as assistant. So let's say at a point in the conversation, the lead asks a question that's very relevant to the conversation, but you don't want to break the conversation cadence. You can type and reply as the assistant, or if you need to go ahead and hand them off to a person and you want to do it organically, there's this forward as assistant option. And what that is exactly what it sounds like. It's like, hey, if we'll say, Megan, you're going to be my human representative for this college, okay? Hey, Megan, you can go in and go, hey, Megan, so-and-so needs your help. Can you assist them with this? And it's that organic handoff versus some random new name coming into the picture and kind of throwing off the balance, right? So that's a really great feature that we have as well. But to tell you a little bit more about that further action, I think this is the one that's further action. Roll with me. So this one, again, I see you previously showed interest, similar conversation. But as you can see, the difference here and here, even these messages, I see in the past you've shown interest, and I know this is small, but it just shows the customization. So two people aren't going to get that exact same message. So you're going to be able to feel like, hey, a real person was just in here typing a quick follow-up to whatever I did, right? But again, the follow-up cadence, this one we've got some opens, but they're not answering. 22nd, right? We've got the follow-up. Hey, I want to follow up again. Can I set up a call for you? She says yes. Well, that one's a hard one to figure out. Obviously, she's interested there. So the AI is going to understand that. Set it to hot lead, notify the sales rep same way. Hey, what's the best number to reach you? Okay, going to do that cadence and follow up because obviously that first time she was busy. Life happens, so she didn't even open that one. Here's another one. Hey, here's a thing. She's like, here's my phone number. Again, she kept this really easy for the AI. This is rare, but all right, cool. I want to follow up with you. This is that follow-up close the loop message that I told you guys about. Hey, I want to verify that you've received all the information that you wanted. So what this opens you up to here, that when you're the employee, we have mixed feelings about this because we've used this for things like recruitment, and sometimes they would come back and be like, they no-showed, they were really rude, people have asked to work directly with the assistant, but we're going to assume that every single one of your employees is stellar and they're going to take great care of them, and if something happens, it's unusual, right? But this is an opportunity for the people to let us know, did we actually resolve your concern, your question, the thing that's keeping you from moving to the next step? So she's going to circle back and say, hey, I want to follow up. Have you received helpful information? Have a great afternoon. Did you get everything you were hoping for? Thank you and have a wonderful morning. Again, personalization, you can see the assistant will automatically kind of note the time of day or, what day of the week it is, whatever, just to keep it a little bit more organic. Again, I want to check in with you to ensure that an enrollment coach connected with you where you're taken care of. Have a great morning. Thank you. Nope, an enrollment coach never reached out to me. So what's going to happen there? The assistant has an action as well. She's going to say, this was a hot lead. It might still be hot, but if we keep doing what we're doing, we might lose this. So she's going to label this a further action, and she's going to notify the sales rep that, hey, we missed something here. Maybe somebody was out sick. They weren't able to get to them within the time window. Not sure what happened, but it's going to notify them as well as anybody viewing the dashboard that we have a formerly hot lead that we're now essentially at risk, which is great to know because we can't let any of these hit the floor, right? We have to make sure that we're taking care of everyone that's interested. So this is great. And what she does there, simple, she says, hey, thank you for informing me. I'm going to let my manager know, right? And this is letting them know on the dashboard, hey, you need to get to this. We're risking this here. So one more example we'll run through, and then I'll kind of show you how it all happens, because that's a common question that we have is like, well, how do we get there? This is a similar cadence, okay? And we've talked about it. Now this one was a little bit different. This one, we've actually got an option where they can schedule an appointment on their own, which is an option that you have within your assistant, where you can say, hey, would you like to set up a call? Or even better, if you want to do it yourself, click the link and set it up on your own, right? We're letting them choose their times if they prefer to. But this one that I really like, this shows, again, another part of the intelligence of the assistant, right? We did the kind of the breakup message. Hey, I know you're probably really busy and maybe all set. I've sent you some messages to make sure enrollment coach has the correct contact info. They'd like to help answer your questions. Would you like to schedule a call to learn more, right? She's poking and poking and poking. Well, what's interesting here, so this conversation started July 27th. She said she was interested. We did the follow-up. We didn't hear back, right? August 4th, she comes back and says, hey, sorry for the delayed response. I'm getting settled into a new address and new work. I wanted to get the application process started, and toward the end of the month, I'll be ready to schedule an appointment. Have a great day. Now, this is magic right here. The assistant says, check back with me later, notes when, and the scheduled next message is to offer that again at the end of the month, which again, this is all happening independently of a human. And this shows you they are able to meet the lead where they're at to kind of remind them, hey, you were interested in this. Would you like a hand raise? So this is a really great feature as well. If they say, hey, I've had ones that say, yeah, I'm not thinking about this till summer. And it'll set up some time to message them in July. Like, hey, I know you said, are you interested in talking about this now? And just gently kind of poke, like this is what you're interested in. So if you wonder how we get here, because this is the most common question that I have. So let's say you hire your personal assistant, right? Or your company assistant, you're gonna give her the list of people to talk to. That's gonna be put right here where it says list 1, right? You're gonna load the contacts in to our conversation editor. We have these pre-built conversations. You can see where if it's not highlighted, this is pre-built, that's set up by the Conversica software that the assistant is going to roll through. These different cadences for attempt 1, 2, and 3. You can see how it'll edit it just slightly. And that was just one attempt twice, but here's another one, just how it's going to bop through. But over here is where you're going to give your assistant details, okay? So you can have a conversation starter. If it's a college, a lot of times they like to throw in their lingo, right? Their war chant, their cry, their quote, whatever it might be. You can choose the formality of the conversation. Informational statements, they're keeping it simple. They're only using one. But if you'd like to use multiples, the assistant will rotate between them in the messaging so that you can have even more customization and even more unique messaging to each of your leads. So you can see this one here is the standard. This one, if you add it in, they'll throw it in during attempt 3. This one, if you add it in, they'll throw it in during attempt 5. It's going to let you see kind of how it cycles through that conversation. Then you can do, again, inquiry descriptions like, hey, why are we reaching out to them? Oh, they're interested in starting that journey, right? Organization description, if you'd like to use it. You can even have pronouns on or off. This is where you include that scheduling link, like what I talked about. So right here is the option to give your assistant more context. You don't have to. You can use the pre-built conversation, but it's not going to sound like it's coming from your school or your company, right? So giving those dynamic fields, giving that context to the assistant allows it to feel like an organic outreach from your college, from your institution. This is sort of how it all comes together. So once you upload the lead, once you tell them what the purpose of the outreach is, they're going to jump on the cadence, and the cadences look kind of like this. And you can see like the first stage, we keep it simple. It's, hey, our goal is to engage. It's to get a sign of life from this person, right? We're trying to get them to respond that they're interested in moving forward. And if they respond, we've got various things of how the assistant will, again, using natural language generation, put it into one of these categories. Like my favorite one is like, huh, what? I didn't do that. oh, well, let's set up a call and we can chat about it. And then the human representative can give them more context on how they got there, right? What does your company do? Again, we're going to try to set up that call with a human, because our assistant is not a relationship builder. She does not close the sale for you. She doesn't get you a new student. She gets you those hand raisers so that your people can activate and have these additional conversations with them, right? Like I said or showed you on the previous cadence, when we find out that they're interested, however they may say it, she's going to try to gather more information for that contact. So within your CRM, you're going to have a list of Conversica collected information, as long as you're utilizing a CRM and it can read and write. And it'll be things like phone numbers. We're not going to take a phone number that they have and replace it. We're going to add the additional number in. So forever, you're going to have that extra contact info. If they have a different preferred email and they let you know, anything like that, which you know how valuable it is to have as many connection points with someone as possible, right? It's such a great way to do things. But this is kind of the scale. These are, again, pre-built. You don't have to do this portion. All you have to do, like I said, is give her the list of people to reach out to. This is why I preload these things, because occasionally it's a little slow. Hello, come back. But you'll give them the list and you'll give them the information from those dynamic fields. There you are. Welcome back. You'll give them any of these details. Obviously, you don't have to use them all. If you're working alongside a great reseller partner like BrainSell, they're going to advise you on the minimums to get your best engagement, right? We have recommendations. We have the book of, we'll call them no-no words, that if you're using certain words or phrases, it'll never make it to their inbox because spam is real, right? So utilizing our BrainSell reseller, right, this great partnership we have, we set them up for success to guide you to the best uses for your assistant. So with all that being said, I'm going to jump right back over here and show you, this might make some more sense now. You've got this easy dashboard. I just did it for the last 30 days so that it wouldn't sit, because this is obviously kind of a big group. They've sent 439,000 messages, and they were just hired in 2021. So they're cranking through it. But this will show you a really easy dashboard. If you are the representative, or if you're even better, a leader for those representatives, you can jump in and see how many hot leads, how many of those turn into further action, that we didn't get it resolved on the first try. What do we need to do? Are our people over indexed? Do we need to get some more resources to talk to these people? You know, it gives you that great insight. But then also, I didn't talk about leads to review, but it's probably my favorite status that we can go into, because leads to review is when humans do what they do best and like take the conversation totally off topic. So we're reaching out to you about this, and they come back and they're like, I was supposed to get a phone call from Jimmy in collections and he never called me back. And the assistant recognizes and goes, haha, this is not what I've been tasked to do. Just like a normal assistant would, right? Hey, I need to escalate this to my manager. And she's going to flag it as a lead to review of, hey, these people are interested in talking and they need help, but it might have nothing to do with what this original conversation intended. Just FYI, right? So it's broken up like that, and you can see the breakdown. We've actually got these great layouts. Again, if it's your source, it'll tell you what it is. We just don't tell you where they use their sources, because that's, you know, important info for them. But it lets you know how many leads have been uploaded. And again, this actually is a limited window because I narrowed down the time, but it'll show you how the engagement of each conversation is going. So maybe one of your sources does better than another. Maybe one of your conversations is more effective than the other. You can go through and view the lead source reporting, or we have this whole other list of reporting available, so you can really know what your assistant is up to, how she's performing, and how you could pivot to get even better results from your outreach. So with that being said, that is my very high level overview of our admissions assistant.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Can we talk just a moment, because like humans sometimes misinterpret or make a mistake of kind of like the tone of a message. No offense to the intelligence of the assistant, but they can also misinterpret the meaning of a message. So can we talk about the AI feedback function?
Absolutely.
And how you're able to train and continually coach and train your assistant?
That's a beautiful question. So what's great, to give you some metrics, because I love talking about good things, our AI assistant has done over 1 billion interactions amongst all of our customers and their assistants at a 98% accuracy. So 1 billion messages, 98%, that's a lot done right. And one of the reasons is that we have this capability to where you can go in and let's say this wasn't something that they were interested, right? Maybe she did misinterpret it. Maybe, I mean, honestly, some people barely make sense to me, and English is my only language. But you can go in here every time and you can say, hey, I disagree with what the assistant said or the action that they took. And you're going to let them know what area this should be filed under. And then you're going to give a comment. And what'll happen with every single one of these, again, this feedback doesn't affect this lead. You're going to have to stop messaging if you want to, and I can show you where that information's at. You're going to have to stop messaging and engage, right? Using the reply as assistant. Hey, oh, sorry. And again, so if you run into that, just like humans do, everybody has come back and said, I'm so sorry. I misunderstood your message. This is what I meant to send. And you can do that, reply as assistant, and be fine. We've all done it. Just own it, right? But you can submit this feedback to us and it will always be reviewed by our tech team and they will report back to you, because some of the time it's the assistant is correct, but it's a misunderstanding on the part of the representative, the human representative, of what's supposed to happen in that spot. Sometimes it's an actual error and we adjust accordingly. But with the continual updates and with the natural language generation and how the AI learns, like I said, that is a very small window of time, very small percentage of people that run into that problem. But if you do, there's this lovely little stop messaging option here of let's hit the brakes. Or you can jump in here and say, hey, I'm so sorry, I misread your message. This is what you need to do next, or so-and-so is going to get in touch with you to take care of that, my error, right? And that's how we would kind of go about that.
Great, thank you. Okay, so shall we transition? We've had some questions come in, so shall we transition to our Q&A?
I am down if you are.
All right, I will make myself a presenter and show my screen again. Okay, let's see. And again, if you have questions and you haven't submitted them yet, just go ahead and drop them into that question box and we will answer them. And there's Jocelyn. Nice
I made it.
See your face along with hearing your voice. So earlier, actually, you talked about volume, like that it's a good use case for, right, as long as you need to scale the personalization. So this question was, is there a certain size school that this would be appropriate for?
I wouldn't say it's as much about the school. I would say, so our absolute minimum, and truth be told, you're going to get, if we put you through the process, we develop these success plans for all of our customers that we can ensure that you're going to get a great return. We can even show that to you in the form of like an ROI calculator of your assistant. We don't recommend using about less than 10,000 leads a year. Now, let's say you might be a smaller school that doesn't have 10,000 inbound leads specifically related to admissions. You can break it up over different types of conversations. So it can be a, hey, are you interested? Cool. You can have that conversation with the admissions, but then you can also do things like follow up and feedback. You can reach out. We even have like an NPS option where you can reach out and say, hey, how did we do? Can you give us some feedback, whether they became a student or they didn't? Hey, I noticed that you had all these conversations with our admissions team and you didn't become a student. Can you give me some feedback on why we're always trying to improve our program? So you don't have to have those specific, for that one purpose. We can help you, again, alongside one of our preferred resellers like BrainSell. We can help you game plan how you're going to get to that contact usage. But no, I wouldn't say it has anything to do with the size of the school. I would say the people who get the most positive feedback when it comes to those types of things are people who offer virtual courses, because there's less of a limitation, right? We can have this much bigger capacity with that, so then it creates that scale for you. But no, I wouldn't say there's a minimum size university. I would say if you don't have enough people to talk to, I mean, we've even done like fundraising style assistance for donors where they've only used just under the 10,000 and they've gotten planned giving major gifts that have easily gotten their money back. We're just not going to sell you something that's not going to help you. So feel free to schedule some time to talk with BrainSell and they can kind of help you narrow down. If it's something that's going to work for you, fantastic. And if not, they'll kind of let you know what sort of lead gen you need to get into or how you can use it differently to get to the point where she can very positively impact your business.
Yeah, great. That makes complete sense. And then how much time does it take to get the assistant up and running and actually doing outreach?
So it's going to depend on the unique situation of the customer, being like the university or the establishment that we're working with. If you already have an established CRM, it's going to be setting up those integrations for it to make sure that, and we have an open API, so that's generally not something that's that complex, but it can be, being honest with you. So up and running, if you want to do, for example, a CSV upload just to get it moving. If you're familiar, CSV is literally just taking that file and loading it in. It's not going to read and write to the CRM. If you just want to take leads and put them via CSV, we can get you up and running in a few weeks, a couple weeks. And then if you're wanting to work towards an integration, you could, usually it's less than 30 days, we can get it up and running. We're going to have a lot of pre-sale conversations. We're going to develop our success plans. We're going to develop a strategy so that when we hit day one, we're not sitting there going, okay, now what? So before you ever become a customer, you're going to have an idea of how long your specific situation should take to go live. We have very specific plans laid out with each of our partners on how to execute. So truth be told, there's not a true we've got people who've decided to do much bigger integrations that are going to take more time. They do a lot of where they'll customize it to where if they trigger something, like we have an example, we have conversation like chaining, where if somebody answers something, you can actually trigger it to start a different conversation, like, oh, you've already done that? Well, here, let's talk about this, right? And so things like that, it does add time to it. But generally speaking, 2 weeks to a month, depending on how complicated that situation is, which again, you should know before you become a customer. That should be in those pre-sale discussions when we're qualifying.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And when we think about utilizing it to augment your existing team, right? Like think about bringing a new team member onto your team and how long it takes to onboard and really get them up and running at full capacity. It's typically, I mean, we're not in higher education, but it can be 3 months or longer, right, to get them ramped up.
3 to 6.
This is a much shorter time frame, and to get, to be able to expand your team and get them up and running at full capacity.
So there was a really fun story. You said that and it triggered. We had our old VP, Andrew. There was a customer that he was helping onboard, and they told them that their assistant worked in a different building. They didn't tell them it was a virtual assistant, and they circled back in 30 days to ask how she was doing, because they were a collaborative team. They often met and they were like, man, Sarah's great. She's super prompt. She forwards me anything that I need. Like, it's like she's always available. And they're like, I have a funny story to tell you, because they were worried about how their employees would accept the virtual assistant, because everybody gets this idea that it's there to replace humans. I'm like, no, we can't replace humans with AI, not anytime soon, because again, you have your specialty, you have your things that people are better at, right? This is just taking and doing the things that people don't even like to do. I mean, I don't know anybody who gets up every day and is like, hey, I want to send 100 emails to people that I don't even know if they care or not, right? That's not something that brings us joy. Bringing us joy is developing the relationships, closing the deal, right? Making the connections, being able to like problem solve and strategize. So we're just giving you this supplement to your human representatives that can make their lives easier.
Yeah. Great. And then we have another question from Rob, or a question from Robin. What is a minimum budget for this service, for this technology?
Just off the top of my head, and this is not set in stone. Again, it's going to depend on how many contacts you're trying to reach out to, how many conversations you're trying to use. And it's also going to depend on kind of what level of business you're at, right? So if we're talking about SMB, well, you know what? I'm going to back up. I'm going to go bigger. Let's say they're from the largest college and they are multi-billion, dollar industry, right? Our corporate pricing for these, the starting for an assistant for a year, not including contacts, is $45K. And then we have buckets of the different types of contacts that you want to use, and we price those accordingly. Those have a dollar amount associated. We can go as low as SMB pricing with that, where we can discount the product. We respect and understand that each different level of business has a different return capability, so it can be discounted up to 50%. So that gives you kind of a really high level overview. Get with your BrainSell team if you have any interest in this, because they will let you know. We will get them, our reseller partners, we give them top dollar.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jocelyn. Okay, so we're just at the top of the hour. So if you have questions that were not answered, we will follow up with you after, or feel free to send us an email as well. But I do want to, we have a special offer from BrainSell for those of you that have attended this event. We're offering a complimentary discussion to really take the time to review what is your current process, your admissions and your recruiting process, identifying where there may be opportunities or gaps where you could utilize technology and tools like Conversica's assistant to help scale your efforts. And then documenting any of those actionable next steps for you. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to either call us or reach out to us at growth@brainsell.com. We will also be following up with you. Zach from BrainSell will be reaching out to all of you to follow up and get your input on the content from today, any insights you can share, and then any next steps or interest. We will take it from there. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Jocelyn, and thank you, Megan, for being on with us as well. Really interesting discussions today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks, Jocelyn.
Have a great rest of the week, everyone, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.